We have all been there, right? You're standing at the pharmacy counter, trying to figure out what the doctor's instructions mean or what the pharmacist is asking you. It happens to everyone, but it doesn't have to be confusing. Today, we're going to give you the essential English you need to walk into any pharmacy feeling totally confident.
I mean, it's a common feeling, isn't it? You get that piece of paper from the doctor, the pharmacist starts talking, and suddenly you're nodding along, but not really sure what's going on. Well, that's exactly what we are here to clear up today.
So, our story starts with a very small but very powerful piece of paper. It's that note you get from your doctor, and really, it's the key that unlocks everything that's about to happen at the pharmacy. Okay, so that document, that's called a prescription. You can think of it like an official order from your doctor to the pharmacy. It tells them exactly what medicine you need, and it proves that it's something that requires a professional's approval.
Now, if you look closely at a prescription, you'll see some really specific details. And one of the most important things on there is the measurement of the medicine. You'll almost always see mg written on there. That stands for milligram. It's a super tiny unit of weight that tells you the dose, so the exact amount of medicine in each pill. It's the standard for most medications, so it's a really good term to know.
All right, so the pharmacist has your prescription, and then they might ask you this very question. It's a pretty simple choice, really, about how you'd like to take your medicine. So let's break down what those two options are.
First up, you've got the capsule. You know, it's that little tube-shaped one, usually with a smooth kind of plasticky coating. The medicine is actually a powder held inside that little container.
And then you have the tablet. This is what most people think of when they hear the word pill. It's just a solid, hard pill that's been pressed into a shape that's easy to swallow. So, what's the real difference between them? Well, it's mostly about the form. A capsule is basically a container for the medicine, and a tablet is one solid piece. The medicine itself is the same, so it really just comes down to what you find easier to swallow. Some people really prefer that smooth coating on a capsule.
Okay, so you've picked the form of your medicine. Great. But now we're at what is absolutely the most critical part of any pharmacy visit, understanding exactly how to take it safely.
The pharmacist is going to give you some very specific instructions. They'll tell you the dosage, that's how much to take and how often to take it. And they're going to give you some really important warnings, like whether to take it with food or to absolutely avoid things like alcohol.
And here's a quick but really essential language tip. In English, we don't say eat medicine or drink medicine. The correct verb is always to take. So you'd say, I need to take my medicine now.
Now, let's go back to how the pharmacist gives those warnings. They'll often use a phrase like, be sure not to. This is a super common and very polite way to give important advice in English.
You know, it's a subtle thing, but it really matters. Instead of a harsh command like, don't do this, saying be sure not to feels more like friendly, helpful advice. It's just a softer way to deliver a really serious warning.
So why are these instructions so important? Because if you don't follow them, you risk what's called an overdose. And that's a very serious word. It means taking more medicine than your body can handle, and it can be incredibly dangerous. Following those instructions is how you stay safe.
Of course, not everything in a pharmacy needs a doctor's special note, right? You've got all those aisles filled with common things you can just grab off the shelf and buy yourself.
A perfect example of this is eye drops. You know, it's a simple liquid for things like dry or red eyes, and you definitely don't need a prescription to buy them.
And this brings us to the two main categories of things you'll find in a pharmacy. On one side, you have prescription medicine, which is controlled by a doctor. And on the other, you have over-the-counter, or you'll often hear it called OTC medicine. These are things like aspirin, cold medicine, or eye drops that anyone can buy.
Okay, for our last little section, let's cover a couple of phrases you might hear from the cashier when you're actually paying for everything.
Have you ever been at the register and an item just won't scan? When that happens, the cashier might say they need to do a price check. All that means is they have to look up the price in their computer system. And while they're looking that price up, you'll probably hear them say something just like this. It's a really common, informal little phrase.
Hang on is just a friendly, really natural way to say, wait. You'll hear people say, hang on a second, or hang on a minute all the time. It sounds a lot more conversational than just saying, wait.
So let's do a quick recap of our pharmacy vocabulary toolkit. We've got prescription versus OTC medicine. We know what a milligram is, and the difference between a capsule and a tablet. And we've learned some key phrases like to take medicine, the polite be sure not to, and the friendly hang on. You're all set. And that's our trip to the pharmacy. It's such a great example of how knowing just a few keywords can turn a stressful situation into a really simple one. It kind of makes you wonder, right? What other parts of daily life get a whole lot easier just by knowing the right vocabulary?